Okay, everyone. So let's get started. Welcome to your first workshop of Motoko Bootcamp. Today is about deploying a first application on the internet computer. I hope you're excited to dive into Web3. I am excited to be here and to do this workshop for you. So before we start, I want to talk about Motoko Bootcamp. What is Motoko Bootcamp exactly? Many people think it's just a normal Web3 bootcamp, typical bootcamp. I don't believe so. I believe it's bigger than that because we are about to enter a new area, a new revolution, I think, about DAOs. My prediction is the following. Within the next 10 years, all of you that are listening to this workshop right now, you will either create, participate, or work for a DAO. DAOs are new organizations that are starting to emerge on the internet, and I believe we will see more and more of those organizations in the future. They are super exciting because they are transparent organizations and also very efficient. So Motoko Bootcamp is here to help you build DAOs, but also participate in this revolution. So finding jobs into DAOs, understanding what are DAOs, how you can leverage them, and essentially how you can build a better life for yourself with DAOs, because there will be many opportunities. Now, before we dive into the code, I want to tell you a quick story. This is the story of the Motoco Academy. So the Motoco Academy, you have to be imaginative. It's an academy in a very far universe. And this is an academy where digital architects are created. So if essentially the people that create the digital world, we are all living in a world, we have a physical reality, but we also have a digital reality. And the digital reality can be manipulated. But at the Motoko Academy, we strive to create a digital academy, a digital world that is transparent and fair for everyone. And so to enter the academy, we have created a challenge. It's the initiation challenge, as we call it. It's a ritual. Every student that wants to join the academy has to go through the ritual. And the ritual is pretty simple. You have to deploy your first application. And so many people think that building in Web3 is complex and deploying an application takes a long time. You have to learn many things and so on. It's not so complex. If you are determined and you are motivated today, you can do it regardless of your background. So exactly what we are going to do in 3 steps, you will go to a repository. I will provide the links in the comments and in the chat. Then you will have to deploy your application. This will give you access to OpenChat, which is an application built on ICP. You will join the Motoko Bootcamp group. And then you will also see your name on the digital legacy scroll. I will explain. It's essentially a scroll that lists all of the students. Make sure you are following this workshop with a computer, so you cannot deploy from a smartphone or a tablet. We are not there yet, maybe in the future, but right now you need a computer. Okay, so we have a lot of objectives today. We need to create an internet identity, register on motocobootcamp.com, deploy our first application, and join OpenChat. How we're going to achieve all of this? I'll present myself first, just very quickly so you get to know me. Then I'll talk about Web3, DAOs, and Motoco. I'll explain what is Web3, what are DAOs, and what is Motoco. Then we will finally do this initiation challenge. And after that, I will talk about Motoko Bootcamp. If you want to go beyond the workshop, you will need to join the bootcamp and I'll answer all your questions. So who am I? So my name is Sebastian. I am from France and I'm here today because I'm really passionate about Web3, ICP, and DAOs. I've actually left school 2 years ago. Now it's maybe 2.5 years ago because I wanted to get involved so hard. So I heard about ICP, I discovered it, maybe just like you are discovering it right now. And I was blown away, honestly. This is amazing. This is the future. And I want to be building on ICP. And so I started to learn Motoco. Took me a long time, but now I'm education lead. So I'm helping people in the ecosystem to learn Motoco and become better builders on ICP. And so the main thing I'm doing is called Motoko Bootcamp, which is a program to help people join the ecosystem. Why should you care about this workshop? There will be opportunities for use because we are talking about the future of work, and also most of the jobs that are on ICP and in Web3 in general, they are really interesting because it's really hard to find meaningful job those days. You know, many people don't like their job. They work for corporation, they don't like it, they don't have purpose, and they don't feel, intrinsic motivation. In Web3, we have a lot of jobs and opportunities where you can really help other people, and that's super motivating. I love my job, even though I'm very tired. I work very hard, but I love helping other people, and that's a huge motivation. So what is Web3 exactly? Web3 is the next stage of the internet. So in Web2, we had essentially platforms, as you can see Facebook on the left. And those platforms, they were central to how we communicate and how we organize ourselves in the digital world. But those platforms, they are manipulated and they are controlled by corporations. What happens is that those platforms, they will extract value from us. So either through data, they will steal our data and use that for advertisement and all sorts of purposes. They will also steal our watching time, so our attention, basically any kind of advertisement again, or just by stealing or taking fees or like premium subscriptions. You have to subscribe to something to use the platform, or if you do a transaction on the marketplace, they take a fee. So they essentially extract some value. And the problem is that this value is not getting back to the users, because the users, they don't own the platform. They own absolutely nothing. They give away everything to the platform. For the service they receive, like using Facebook, they give away everything, their data and their watching time. So most of it goes to the investors, and a bit goes to the developers that built the platform and the application. But this is essentially what Web2 is. It's an extractive model because users are not involved in the loop. They are just being, extracted away. And we've seen many cases where platforms are really good in the beginning. For example, YouTube, they attract you. You can publish video for free. They take as much as they can. And when they are in a position of monopoly, when they are they are controlling the market, they start to add more advertisement. They start to restrict the rules. They start to censor people, to ban people, and all sorts of things. So they have too much control. Web3 is made possible by Web3 technologies, so blockchains and crypto and all sorts of new technologies that makes it possible to create platforms that are owned by everyone and no one at the same time. So a platform like OpenChat, which is the example on the right, there is no one corporation that controls the application. The application is deployed on the internet computer and it's controlled by a DAO. A DAO is a group of people that votes together in a transparent way. So of course, there are still people taking decisions. It's not like you can just create an application and expect that it will magically upgrade itself. There are still people taking decisions, but the users are much more involved because they receive tokens and they can participate in the application. And they receive tokens proportional to the value they contribute to the application. So in this model, it's a better positive relation because users are involved and they are not being extracted away. Users also have an incentive to make the platform better and to make it more valuable. And there is less incentive for one group, like the investors, to essentially use the other groups. And this is possible because of the technology that we have. What is this technology? Well, I want to talk about blockchain, but not the blockchain you might know, because many people come to me and they tell me, oh, you work in blockchain. So you work in money, like you work in cryptocurrencies and everything. For me, blockchain is not about finance. It has never been about finance. It started with finance because that's the most important aspect of our world. Finance is what rules the world. And so blockchain was used in a first step for Bitcoin and Ethereum and for decentralized finance because that's the most important part. But there is all the rest that needs to be decentralized and needs to be moved to Web3, which is all those industries like education, telecom, artificial intelligence, agriculture, governance, and everything. And so all those industries, they are currently centralized by big corporations. Doesn't matter if you live in Europe, in US, in Africa, in Asia, most of the time you have big corporations that controls, maybe 2 or 3 corporations control the market. And the idea is that we have the technology to decentralize and disrupt that. So I want to talk about the internet computer, which is a generation 3 blockchain. Generation 3 blockchain because you can build a new internet. So for me, the most important things to know about crypto and blockchain are on this picture right now. Of course, there are many other ecosystems, but if I had to simplify things, and I just have a few minutes today, so for me, everything started with Bitcoin, and this is the first time we had a use case for a blockchain. So that was revolutionary. This is a money that we can use without a government, and this is a fundamental revolution. But this is already something that happened a long time ago. I'm not here to talk about Bitcoin. Many people have done it before me. Ethereum was something that was built after Bitcoin because people realized that, oh, okay, I can send this money around. This is nice. And this is a decentralized money. But how do I lend money to someone? How do I stake money? How do I borrow money? Bitcoin, you could only send it. There was not many abstraction and interactions that you could do with it. So Ethereum, they invented this concept of smart contracts, which made decentralized finance possible. There were other applications like NFTs, and even a few experimentation with DAOs and everything, but it was not at the level that the internet computer enables us to do. So now let's talk about the internet computer. It's not smart contract, it's called canister. And so canisters, you can think of them as decentralized server. A server is something where you can store files, you can process any kind of computation. You could essentially build a social media in a canister. And that's something that we would try, that has already been tried, and it works. And so the goal of the internet, the goal of the internet computer is to build a place on the internet where we can deploy applications without having to use any big tech technology. So no Google, no Microsoft, no Apple, and no Amazon Web Services. So what is the link with DAOs? Well, I've said that DAOs are news organizations. A DAO is an organization built using blockchain technology where many people work together, community members, developers, marketers, and so on. And they all use blockchain technology to coordinate themselves. It's not because we are using blockchain that there is no more rules. Of course, people still need to be organized. You know, like everyone has to deal with their own business and everyone has to do what they are paid for. But with a DAO, you can do that in a transparent manner. So you can avoid people from, benefiting from other people because everything is transparent, or at least the important parts are transparent. And you can build better organizations. So there are many things that comes into DAOs. It's still early days of DAOs, but we've seen DAOs using artificial intelligence. We've seen DAOs using open source software so that everyone can see the infrastructure the DAO is using. We've seen tokenization. It's very important to have a token because it represents how much people are involved and how you can reward them. But essentially, DAOs are news organizations. And DAOs have been around for a few years. On Ethereum, they started some experimentation. But the problem is that on Ethereum, you cannot build an application completely on-chain. You still have to rely on Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and use Google Authenticator, Google Logging, etc. You don't have the full application that is built on the blockchain. You only have the token. So the token is built on Ethereum, on the blockchain, but not the rest of the application. And that's a huge problem because most of the applications that are built on Ethereum, they are not controlled by a DAO. They are controlled by a few developers. And even if they are good and they have good intentions, it's a limitation. And DAOs are about to become real, and they are becoming real because DAOs can now control software. So this is what I want to show in this picture. Imagine that you have a set of canisters. So again, canisters are those little contracts, little servers that are deployed everywhere on the internet computer. And you have a DAO, which is also a canister that controls and is the only entity that is able to upgrade and modify the other canisters. That way you have an application like OpenChat, which is a good example, that can only be upgraded by a DAO and is fully controlled by the users. So if you control the token, if you own some of part of the token, you directly own a part of the application. It's very important to understand that there is a difference when the application is not deployed on a blockchain. If the application is not deployed on a blockchain and you own a token, like on Ethereum, sometimes some applications, they launch a token. Your token is not linked directly to the application. The developer could still, delete the application, modify it. You have no control, no direct control. On the internet computer, because everything can be built from the infrastructure and on the blockchain, you actually own a little piece of the application, and that's something that no one can take away from you. And so what I believe is that co-owned software, I call this co-owned software, is to Web3 what the combustion engine was to cars. So there were some experimentation with cars before we had the first combustion engine, but it's only when we had this technology that made it possible to scale and to create cars that were affordable for the masses, that we've seen the world changing and people using cars for all sorts of trips and purposes. We've seen some experimentation in Web3, but I believe we are so early, and this is only like a technology like this one that can make the next step. And the next step is really, making it real and making it for millions of people. So now what is Motoko? Motoko is the way that we have to build those canisters. So those applications, those containers, actually they contain what's called a WebAssembly module. If you are not familiar with WebAssembly, I will make a dedicated video for this one. But essentially, you can think of it as a virtual machine. So this is where the code is running and the instructions are running. And so Motoko is a language that compiles. So take your Motoko code, you write it in Motoko, and then it compiles to WebAssembly. And then WebAssembly is installed on the canister. Motoko is great because Motoko is easy to learn. It's an easy language for beginners to build on the internet computer. It's powerful, like very fast, essentially as fast as possible. And also it's future-proof in the sense that every time there is a new feature on the internet computer, because the system is also evolving regularly, there are new updates and new features. Motoko also evolves and integrates the feature directly into the language. So that makes it easier for developers. And Motoko Bootcamp is a way to learn Motoko, but also a way to learn, build, connect. You have projects, lectures, teams, and so on. So are you ready? Because if you are ready, let's get started. And the first thing that we need to do, if you haven't done it yet, is to go on motocobootcamp.com and create an account. And so let me show you. We need to go here. We need to click on login. And so you should see this internet identity. I will send you the link in the chat. Make sure to follow with me. So if you already have an internet identity, that's great. And you can just continue and skip. If you don't have, you will need to create a new one. And you can do it pretty quickly. So you need to click on create new, then create a passkey. Oops. So an internet identity is a way for you to log in to ICP applications. You can use this identity that you will create for the dashboard of the bootcamp, but also for other applications like OpenChat, Discover, and even other applications on ICP. So click on continue. Then you will see this CAPTCHA. So you have to prove that you are not a robot. So I'm not. Okay, this is your number. It's not private, but you can save it somewhere. Like it's not a problem that you see it. It's not a private information, but you need to save it so that you can access your identity later. So copy and save it somewhere and then click on continue. And then you will see this window. So you have to provide a few informations. So I will do like a test. So this is my identity. Your email to get update about the next bootcamps, and your GitHub username. If you don't have a GitHub, you will need to create one for the bootcamp. But if you already have one, you can give your GitHub username. So your GitHub username is, sorry. You can find it if you go to your profile. So this is my profile, and your GitHub username is here. So mine is Seb ICP. Don't give me the full URL. I've seen some people putting the like this. I just need this information. And this is to when you will submit projects for the bootcamp. So I need this information. When you're ready, just click on join. And you are successfully registered. So you have access to the levels of the bootcamp and you have access to the dashboard. And you have also access to your profile. So you can see you can change your username and email in case you have a problem. Right now, we are just candidates. We are not students because we haven't completed the initiation challenge. The initiation challenge is here. So this is the level 0 in home, level 0. Click on this and you will access your mission. So this is the initiation challenge. You have this introduction. And then, okay, this is not, I should fix this. Well, I will fix this later on. We need to go to this repository. Oops. So I just sent the link in the chat, and if you're watching this on YouTube, the link will be in the comments. This is the GitHub repository for the initiation challenge. You need to click here and then scroll down and then finally click here to get started. This will open the Motoco playground. Motoco playground is great because this is an online environment where we can code and we don't need to set up anything on our machine. If you want to go beyond, you know, like during the bootcamp and really become a proficient developer, you will need to set up locally, like install Visual Studio Code and extensions and everything. But for today, you can just use this and we don't have to set up anything. You can deploy your applications from here. So notice that you have two files on the left. The first file is called demo.mo. This is this file, which is already completed for you. The second one is main.mo. And so main.mo contains 5 tasks. Task 1, task 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the tasks that you need to complete today. So this is your mission. This is what your mission is about. I will give you a quick explanation before I give you 20 minutes to complete the task. And so I will explain a few things about Motoco. So oops. So what I wanted to show you is in the presentation. I want to talk about two subjects today, variables and functions. So variables, variables and functions are two of the most important concepts in any programming language. In Motoco, we have two types of variables. So a variable is just a way to store any kind of information. In this case, I'm creating a variable. So the name of the variable is website. This is the type, this is the type of the variable. So Motoco is a typed language, which means that every variable has a type, and this one is of type text, and this is the value assigned to my variable. This is an immutable variable. An immutable variable is a variable that you can never change. So if you are used to other languages like Python or JavaScript, usually you should be able to do that, you know, like website is equal to, I don't know, I just want to change .google.com. In Motoco, you cannot do this with an immutable variable because an immutable variable is a variable that you never change. So you can think of it as a constant if you are familiar with this term. Now, if you want to have a variable that changes, so where you can actually reassign the value, you need to use var. So this is how you would define a mutable variable. And in this case, var message. Again, this is of type text. And we set it to join the Web3 revolution. So in Motoco, we have two variables, two types of variables, the let and the var. And we also have two types of functions. The function that is here is a query function. The function that is here is an update function. And so an update function, well, let's start with a query function. So variables we've done. A query function is a function that is very fast because it doesn't go through consensus. The internet computer is built on blockchain, and like any blockchain, you have a consensus. Reaching consensus takes time and energy. And so a query function is a function that doesn't go through consensus. That's why it's super fast. It's a few milliseconds to execute. But it's a read-only function. So what does it mean? It means that you cannot change any value of any variables. You can only see, like, it's just like you would see the state of your canister. You can look at any variable, what is the value, but you cannot change anything. This is because if you want to change something on a blockchain, you need to go through consensus. And so in that case, you would use an update function, which is the second type of functions that we have. And this is a function that goes through consensus, usually takes around 2 to 3 seconds. And in this case, we can change the message. So let me write it down for you. When you define a function in Motoco, you're using a public, usually a public keyword as the first word, because this is the function that you want to be accessible from the outside. Yeah, I can share the Motoco playground, of course. It will be in the comment section as well. So public, then you need to specify if it's a query or an update. As you can see, if it's a query, you say query. If it's an update, you don't actually say anything because by default, any function is an update function. So you only need to specify it if it's a query. Then you have the func keyword, corresponds to function, of course. Then the name of your function. So in this case, C message. This is where you put arguments for your function. So we don't have any argument for this one. So I'm just leaving it empty. And then this is the return type of your function. So exactly what is being returned by the function and what is the type of the object or variable that you return. In our case, we return message. Remember that message is of type text, so it's a text. And so that's why we have async text. If you don't get why we have this async, this is called asynchronous programmation. And so we have this concept of async await, like you have in JavaScript. There will be also a dedicated tutorial for that. But just so you know for today, this is basically because when you call a canister from the outside, you need to wait a little bit to receive an answer. So as a user, you call and the return type is async text because you need to actually await to receive an answer. Because the canister could be doing something else, computing something else, answering another user, and so on. So that's it for the query. I can actually remove that. And then it's the same structure for an update function. The only difference that we have here is that it's called change message. We are taking an argument. We say it's a new message of type text. And then we actually reassign this value. So this variable, we can change it. And that's how you will reassign a value. This is the reassignment operator. And then what we actually don't see, but that I should maybe add, is that we return like this. It's essentially the same doing this without the return and this, because in Motoco, it will automatically return, but I can add it just for clarity. Here, we don't have any return type because we're actually returning, as you can see, like nothing. We just return. And so when you don't return any specific object, you can just put the unit type, and the unit type represents nothing. So that's why we have this. Okay, once you are ready, you can click on deploy. This is a few configuration options about the garbage collector, and you can look at the settings, but for today it's not so important. Then click on install. And that's it. We are deploying our first application. So this is a playground. So this application will only survive for 20 minutes. After that, it will be deleted. But the advantage of using the playground is that we can deploy for free. And you can see I have a canister ID. So the canister ID corresponds to the ID of the application I've just deployed. And I can use the Candid UI. So if you want to open it in a new window, you can click here. The Candid UI is a visual interface that essentially enables you to interact with your canister. So you can see, I can click here, I can see the message. You can see how fast a query is. Remember, it's a query, so it's very fast. And this is an update, so we can change the message to hello, everyone. This will take more time because this is an update function. 2.6 seconds. This is normal. And then we can see that we have changed the value of the message. So the Candid UI, this can be accessible from anywhere in the world. So this is actually deployed on the internet. Like right now, you could, you could use this link and just access this UI and interact with my canister. And that's super easy to deploy, as you can see. As you can see, this canister has a countdown on it, so 18 minutes and 45 seconds, because this application will actually be deleted after this time of 20 minutes has been passed, because we are using the playground. So this is, again, a free environment to play around. Okay, so this is now your time. And the idea for you is to go to main.mo and to complete the task. Based on what I've explained, you should be able to do it. It's not very complex. Whenever you are done with this, you can go to the Motoco Bootcamp dashboard. You can log in. Make sure to use the identity that you have created your account with. And then when you're done, you can actually submit. So you take your canister ID, you go here to submit, level 0, you input your canister ID, you click on submit, and this will give you access to OpenChat. Good luck, everyone. I give you 15 minutes and then I will be, well, I give you 10 minutes and then I will be back. If you have any question, I am in the chat. I will be monitoring and answering your questions. So. What is happening? And so whenever you are done with your application, you should appear here. This is where all the students that went through this challenge are displayed, and you should see the list of applications. You should see your name here and the message that you set. Good luck, everyone. Now I can go and submit my canister ID. So this is level 0. Submit it, and let's wait to see if everything was correct. And congratulations, you have earned the right to join our open chat group. Click here to join. So you can click here and try to join our group. I've seen some people already joining.